So thank you all so much for joining me. We're about to get started. I'm waiting on our guest. She should be in the building very shortly. So thank you all so very much. Let me join her in here in this wonderful conversation we're about to have. All right. So, guys, thank you all so much. I see my guest is in the building. So I'm about to bring her onto the screen and we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation because I think it's definitely needed. I know it's warranted and with everything going on, I want to definitely make sure we get in this conversation. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for the technical difficulties as I navigated a couple of things. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and make sure we enter and get Miss uh, Jerbrina Johnson, Esquire, into the building. So you all, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. Hey, Attorney Johnson, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing well. So thank you so much for joining me here in the Coins Talk Room. We do appreciate it. I think we have some guests here. I definitely want to thank you for your time, for being here, and really just making sure that we talk about a conversation I think we really need to have. So let me do a couple of things before we get started. How is everything going with you?
Everything is fine. I am trying to understand this is new for me. So I know the angle's like a little crazy, but I think you can see me, so I think it's
You
okay.
know what? I'll be honest. It's new for me as well. I am forcing myself to learn this technology because, like everybody else, this is a platform now. We can do a lot, obviously, being that we are you're in Georgia and we're in Mississippi, but more importantly, we can be able to still have the right conversations in front of people. So
Right.
it's definitely a learning experience for both of us. So thank you so much. So
No, thank you for having me.
you're good. So thank you. So let's go ahead then and get started. I want to go ahead and make sure that people are here in the room with us. So, um, tell us a little bit. I know we're going to go ahead and get started about wills. And guys, the reason why we're having this conversation is I think in light of everything, what we're doing and what's going on, the topic is obviously rich or not, you need to have a will, right? And I think it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it is a conversation that I think at the end of the day we need to have. You want to know why? Because a lot of us have graduated from our family members. Let me say that. I'm not going to say you all because you all aren't. But a lot of your family members have graduated from LegalZoom.com, the one they're giving out honorary degrees. A lot of people are graduating from a lot of different places right now. We got Facebook graduates, we got LegalZoom graduates, we got realtor graduates. I mean, I'm a realtor, but so you got a lot of graduates and a lot of degrees, and a lot of people are talking about stuff that really don't have any truth to it. Would you not agree?
I absolutely agree 100%.
Why are you laughing?
Just because I see it so often in my practice, people come in and tell me what someone else told them. And I'm like, but you cannot rely on that. It's okay, to talk to your friends to get perspective, but your situation is unique to you.
Exactly. And I think that's the reality. So that's the reason why I wanted to go ahead and talk about it. I know that we don't want to talk about it, but we don't know what we don't know until guess what? We have the uncomfortable conversation. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. So without any further ado, can you tell our audience exactly who you are and what you do so they can know exactly that? Again, I didn't get anybody from Backyard University come and talk to everybody. I got somebody who obviously has the degrees to be able to have this discussion with you all.
Well, thank you, Brandy. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate you entrusting me with your viewers to give them just some basic insight about wills. So thanks so much for having me. I'm going to also say I love my coins book, my coins
Thank
journal.
you.
Yes, I tell people about it all the time. I think it's absolutely amazing. It was such a smart way to channel your energy after your own loss, and I'm extremely proud of you. So I'll
Yeah.
I'll stop there. But as far as me, just pretty basic. As you said, I'm an attorney in Atlanta. I am originally from Kosciuszko, Mississippi. And I went to Jackson State. Of course, that's how we know each other because we're line sisters.
We love
And so I matriculated at Jackson State, and then I went on to law school at Ole Miss, and just kind of was ready for a change. I kind of wanted to get out of Mississippi and do something a little different. So I came and interned my last semester in Atlanta, fell in love, and that was 16 years ago almost. So I've been here for 16 years and practicing law here. I have an office downtown Atlanta, well, in Buckhead, Atlanta, and I have an office in Snellville, which is up in Gwinnett County.
So now wait, 12 years, and tell us again your moves. Where's your offices? So again, just tell them so they know.
So one of my offices is in Buckhead, Atlanta. Everybody knows Atlanta knows Lenox
Right.
Mall, so it's right across from the mall. And then my other is in Snellville, which is in Gwinnett County.
Okay, so again, that's two offices. So again, for those who you are joining, you're in this room, thank you. I wanted to make sure they understood that again, you have this expertise because again, I think when we're talking about certain things and topics, you want to get people who are resourceful and understand the market. And that's with all seriousness, that's really what I want to make sure people understand and take away, that this is not a conversation I took to bring about that you all can kind of guess, or yeah, I know Google is there, but we want to have the right people in the room for these conversations. So let's go ahead and get into our questions. So I have my little coins cheat sheet. Yes, I have cheat sheets. Shout out to the cheat sheets. So my first question is for all of my viewers, again, for those of you who all are just joining us for the first time or just getting into this conversation, I am the author of the Coins Journal, and this journal was birthed out of a conversation that I really felt like I should have had a long time ago, but we didn't. But we're here now. And the reality I'm trying to do is really help people understand the importance of documenting your finances, understanding that having the uncomfortable conversation doesn't mean it'll happen to you tomorrow. We're just making sure that all that you've worked for, you have that and you can pass that information on to your family. So the Coins Journal really helps walk you through that. And some of the information that you're going to ask and it asks you is about a will and estate planning and insurance. And I'll have all of those guests here. So for what Attorney Johnson is going to talk about is what's a will. So I just wanted to have her to come on here and have that explanation. Tell us what a will is, Attorney Johnson.
So, and I'll just say this, I'm not going to do a lot of legal jargon. It's the end of the week and I'm tired of talking that way. So we're going to keep it real simple.
Yeah.
Another reason I want to share this too. Another reason I want to keep it simple is my passion as it relates to estate planning and wills has a lot to do with my upbringing. My mother works in a funeral home and she's been working there about 50 years, same funeral home. And so I have seen and heard some of the worst stories you can imagine. And just people, a lot of times our parents, they think, oh, well, they'll figure it out. They'll work it out. And people argue over things that you would never think they argue over. And I also think that there's a misconception that wills are so expensive and that it's just something, that's reserved for the elite or someone that has a whole lot of money and savings and all that. And that's just not the case. So with that being said, as far as what a will is, very simply, it's a legal document that just lays out, your wishes, your desires as it relates to your property, as it relates to your money. It can lay things out as it relates to your children. So it just makes it clear from a legal standpoint what your final wishes are.
Okay. Very simple. We're going to keep this very, obviously it's Friday. We know you all are going to either get off or already off, or you're tuning in on your drive. So we definitely will have some Q&A if you need some specific questions as we continue to go. Let me ask this question. Let me just jump on into it. You said your mother works in a funeral home, so I get that. My question is, we hear all the time, again, in growing up, are wills that important? That's the question.
They are so important. And, we had a struggle. My mom, seeing all this negativity, made sure that she has all her stuff together. She done picked out her casket, child, the dress she gonna have on, but she, of course, because what
she works in
exactly. But it was like pulling teeth with my dad. He's very traditional Southern man. You don't really talk about death, and things like that. And he, of course, always assumes my mom is going to outlive him and she'll handle everything because she handles everything. Or, I just got these kids, they'll figure it out. But we were able, thank God, to finally get him to do a will. But yes, they are absolutely important. They're important for a few reasons. Number one, most people don't know what you have. And a lot of people, even if you're working in a warehouse, a lot of times in a warehouse, they'll automatically give you life insurance. It may only be $25,000, but they're paying for it. If something happens to you, and let's say your mom, doesn't know about it, or your sister or your wife doesn't know about it, or doesn't know the name, they don't know how to get in touch with your HR department or anything. Your family's doing a GoFundMe to pay for your funeral when $25,000 is sitting over here. And then that money ends up being unclaimed. Of course, for people that have more substantial assets, it's something to really consider. One issue that we see so often is heir property, where no one has a will, so it just passes, and as more children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are born, now you got 48 people on a half an acre of land. And one person's been paying the taxes for 20 years. And so absolutely, it's important to just say very simply, whether it is my Delta Sigma Theta paraphernalia, where do I want that to go so it doesn't end up on, some homeless person, or whether it's as simple as saying, hey, my car, I really want to leave my car to my niece, so that she can have that part of me or a piece of me. So it's absolutely important. And no matter what you think, if you're here and you breathe it and you're alive, you have something to give and to pass on to those that you love.
Okay. You heard it. You see, and again, all of these things are questions that you're going to ask, and you can find in your coins journal. But more importantly, a lot of times we don't think that we have a lot because we're thinking that, oh, I'm not rich, or I'm not a superstar. I don't see the people on TV. You have things. You have money. You probably took a policy out on at work, and they've been taking this draft inside your account. And think about it. That little money, whether it's $25,000, whether it's $5,000, it's still your money.
Yes.
You want to be able to make sure your family, your loved ones, they can access that. Okay. All right. So the next question is, what happens if I don't? If I don't complete a will?
So that kind of goes into what we were just talking about. I mean, there are a lot of different possibilities that can happen. Again, the money ends up sitting there, and after a while it's unclaimed, and it goes to the state. It might go to the school district after what, or it just goes away. Somebody, the insurance company just got all that free money from you, that $10 a month they were taking out of your check. They just got that as free money because it never ends up being claimed. What happens if you don't have a will? And let's say you got a car and it's your grandma. All right. So she has a car and she got a house with some stuff in it. Mm-hmm. You have no idea how many stories we hear of people saying, Charles and them went in there, took all the good stuff. And by the time we made it over, all the good stuff was gone. So, I mean, it's much different when you say, hey, my granddaughter, Brandy, I really want her to have my figurine collection. Mm-hmm. And the other part of it too, Brandy, is when there's a will, as soon as someone dies, I mean, you can make some adjustments because of that will. So you can go to the probate court and you can say, hey, we changing the locks on this house until we figure out what's supposed to happen or what goes on. But I just want to reiterate, I know you said it, but I just want to reiterate that the idea that you have nothing so you don't need a will, or that it's very expensive, is just a falsehood. And the least that I would suggest your people do is just have a consultation with an estate plan attorney. Most of those consultations are free, and they can ask you the proper questions and ascertain whether or not you should do a will. And that way they may help you to think of things that you didn't even think about that are important that you want to leave. I don't have children yet in my life, but I still have a will because
Right.
I have stuff. And I don't care if it's $2 in my bank account when I die. I don't want the state to get my $2. And that's what'll happen if it just ends up being unclaimed money. So if I got $2, I wanted to go to my parents or go to my niece or go to Jackson State or wherever I wanted.
Everyone.
So exactly.
And I think that's the reality. If you think about it, you worked this hard. Why would you just work your money to go to the state? Do you all understand there's billions? Let me make sure I tell you, billions with a B of unclaimed money and money that the state has. Do you think the state is not lacking money? The state had plenty of money. Matter of fact, they got enough money for all of us. But guess what? They can't do anything. Talk a little bit about what happens when the money becomes unclaimed. Like what's that process? Just a little bit about what that looks like.
I mean, so I think it's a state by state thing. So
Gotcha.
it varies depending on where you are. But I
Right.
know in some states it's like donated to the school district. In other states, it just goes into a general fund that gets used however they want to use it. And depending on what state you're in, whether it's red or blue, depending on how you feel about your legislators and how they choose to spend money, a lot of times they allocate money into things that are detrimental, especially in our communities. And so, how much more beneficial would it be for your money to go towards something that would be beneficial either to your family member, or if you designate to your community, versus it just being able to be used by people that represent you or were voted in to represent you, but you don't necessarily align with?
Okay. So see guys, that lets you know you want to be able to control your money. I know if someone asks you right now to just give your money away, you'll be like, no, I'm not giving my money away. I tell you what, if you all don't really want to be able to, have a place to give your money, either Attorney Johnson or myself, we will be more than happy. If you just want to give money away, let us know. We'll talk about it after the show. No, more importantly, I know because this is such a one of those conversations people don't have, and I want to definitely have your mom on here. I'm sure we're gonna have, if we can have her on here to talk about what has happened at funerals.
Oh my gosh,
We can have a whole talk on this, and I think the reality is you all need to hear it because it happens in funeral homes, fighting and all kind of silliness.
yes.
Why? Because again, we haven't sorted it out, and because it's one of those topics you don't want to talk about it, I have to bring jokes in it to kind of keep the humor because at the end of the day, people think because you talk about it, it's gonna happen tomorrow. Okay.
And I hear that so much. I want to piggyback off of that, Brandy, because of course I'm from Mississippi, so I understand, and I hear that so much. But it's such a fallacy. I mean, just to think that, oh, if I talk about death, that means that I'm happy about it or that it's gonna happen. No, intelligent people, wealthy people,
Right.
plan for future generations. And I'll just stick this in there too. I've become so passionate over the last few years about life insurance. I really never saw the benefit of it because I felt like, oh, you only have life insurance if you have children, which is not true. So I made sure now I have life insurance. What I learned is what a valuable tool it is to pass wealth on. A lot of us in our communities, and I say that because I also have property in Jackson. It's in a depressed community, and I plan to buy more property in the depressed community. So it's still my community too. And what I see so often with us is that, we don't have life insurance. When somebody dies, we do a GoFundMe. Life insurance is so cheap. I mean, you could get life insurance sometimes for $15, $20 a month. I mean, you spend that at the corner store and you can pass on in whatever way you want, an extra 10, 20, $30,000. And if you say, hey, I don't want to give my daughter just $20,000 when I die because she's not going to be responsible. That's where trust come in, or in a will, you can lay out. She gets this money once she graduates from college, and then she gets this once she hits this age. It's such a wonderful tool, and our counterparts have used it literally for generations. Just paying, like I said, $20-$30 a month for life insurance, and used it to build wealth so that when they pass, their children are literally trust fund babies. And we can do the same thing no matter where we are, where we're from, or where we live right now.
Exactly. And see, guys, that's what all it's about. I mean, you get your journal, you may be like, well, I don't have anything. You do have something. You just have to sit and think, how can I get it? That's the other thing, is invoking you to think differently. We are not taught this. We attended the I Love. Shout out to Tiffany, who another fellow graduate. But we weren't really taught this. We're not taught legacy. We're not taught to be able to think about these different things. But the reality of it is, like Attorney Johnson is saying, this is what has been happening. This is what a lot of people have been doing. We are just getting understanding this in 2020, the last few years, but guess what? They've been funding this. So you can be able to change your whole family, your lineage, by doing these things, okay? So we're going to get back into our questions. And, I wanted to make sure, again, that I was giving everyone some great information. But one of the things that I found that I get often asked is, there's this myth versus truth. And so I want to make sure we're going to play a quick little game, and just wanted to have you talk about this for those who are joining us. So one of the myths versus truth is marriage and remarriage. Does it affect my will?
It absolutely can. So I would definitely say that if you are married and you create a will while you're married, you get divorced, you remarry, or even if you don't remarry, you get divorced, you need to update your will. I have a client, I've updated her will about 5 times. But the reason I say that is because a lot of times people forget. Just like my mom, oh gosh, has told me so many stories about so and so was married to this person for 30 years, and that's who was on their life insurance at their job. Then they separated. She done went on with somebody else. He done went on with somebody. He never changed it. It's the same thing with a will. And so you allow for fighting that is unnecessary, because think about it. If you got a will done, Brandy, your children are still young. If you got a will done while your children are this age, can you imagine how different your life is going to be when they're 16, when they're 18? And you and your husband, will, I'm sure, still be together, but I mean, circumstances could change. It's just so many things happen. And if you do not update your will, like, there could be real problems, because you have your former spouse, or maybe you've had additional children, and those children weren't included in your original will. There's so many scenarios. So yes, marriage and remarriage absolutely is a cause to take a look at your will and likely update your will.
Okay. All right. Second question, myth versus truth. You talked about it earlier. My family will sort out my affairs after I'm gone. Is that a myth?
It's a myth. It's a myth. In my own family, I've seen divisiveness. Just somebody died, they were married. That person, of course, inherits some portion of the property. But the other people feel some type of way because they're not family, even though it's the husband, they're not family, and serious division amongst the family. So to just think that because y'all have a good relationship, that it'll always be like that. People change. Some people, $2,000 can change their life. You know what I'm saying? So when you start talking about who's going to handle this and how somebody feels like this, people are just very different. Oftentimes, too, people are grieving when someone passes, so they're not always thinking in a clear state of mind, and that grief sometimes turns into greed. Sometimes it turns into anger, and so you just can't expect them to be thinking in the right way and do the right thing. I can tell you personally, I keep telling my dad, don't put me and my brother on the house. Like, either give the house to him or give it to me and give the other one something else, because I'm extremely sentimental. So you give me a house it'll never be sold. Like, I'll be an old lady sitting on the porch because that's where I was raised. My brother's a little different.
Mhm.
So we're never going to agree on it. And what happens in the meantime? And I will tell you this too, another story I just spoke to somebody about the other day, and they were saying that, um, property had been passed, through the generations, no will. And so my friend, he was saying that his uncle lives next to the grandparents' house, and the grandson is living in the house, and he's been living there for years. He wants to make some changes. He wants to put some floors in. He wants to get a new roof. Uncle's like, no, 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 no. Even though the house needs floors, it needs a roof. So it's like people will say no about crazy stuff. Like, it needs a roof. He's willing to pay for it, but you're saying no, for whatever his reasoning is. So to think that people are going to just get it together and think logically, I think is a fallacy. So no.
Right. Okay. All right. What about this one? Myth versus truth. My children will be looked after by my family.
Oh my, I just feel like I should just tell stories because
Wow, you guys said okay.
oh my gosh. No, no. Um,
Okay.
I right in Mississippi, I can think about a friend. Her best friend died young. Of
Hmm.
course, never thought she would die. It was like an illness and it came and took her out really quick. And we're seeing that with Corona. So we have to be mindful. She had young children. And at the end of the day, I know that her mother, which is the children's maternal grandmother, like, bought a new car, bought a couple other things. And when it came time for the oldest to go to college, she had no money to go to college. But grandma had a new car. So, and of course, grandma justified the new car because, oh, I got these kids, but you didn't have to buy a brand new whatever, the car was. So, absolutely, you should not just, and this is maternal grandmother. This is the mom of the person who died. This isn't like an auntie or, somebody over here. This is like the person who, of course, you would trust to absolutely do the right thing. And it made no sense that that child had no money for college. So, again, we have to be honest with ourselves and honest about our family. And even if we love them and trust them and think they're the best in the world, you cannot just assume that they're going to do the right thing. You make it clear in a will what you want to be done. That way, no one has to question. Nobody gets to say, oh, I know she said she wants to be cremated, but on her deathbed, she said she wants to be buried. You don't have to question that because it's already in the will exactly what you want.
Wow. Okay, y'all, are y'all learning something with this coins tea? I mean, this is a topic that we really don't want to talk about, but let's think about it. I mean, like she just said, we can have conversations after conversations on stories after stories, and this is straight from an attorney. So I definitely can't wait to have her mom on because I'm probably going to be sitting over here with all the tea and popcorn and everything. They're going to have juju rules and hot tamales, and y'all gonna be like, she for real. I'm gonna be like, yep, I'm gonna sit here listening to this, because I don't know that this is gonna be a story. Forget going on whatever these shows y'all looking at. Y'all can probably go to the funeral home and this probably be some great sipping tea. You'll be like, girl, did you see what they did? So yes, I'm sure gonna bring her mother on. So and, I'm gonna be honest. So all right, my next question then is myth versus truth. And you all we have a few more. Your debts will die when you do.
Oh, that's a myth. No, 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 no. Your
Yeah.
debt still has to be paid, honey.
So y'all
People,
hear that? Your debts gotta be paid. Okay, well, go ahead.
those debts got to be paid, period, point blank. They do not die when you die. Even if you do not have a will, when you die, an estate is still created. It's still an estate created. And
Right.
so if there's any money to be had, they will come after your estate, and your estate is your heirs. So if you don't pay it, somebody's going to pay it.
So
Yeah.
so wait, break it down for a little bit more. So you didn't tell me if you have some money, if you leave all this debt, they could go after your children.
Absolutely. If they are like if they're like what we're talking about with insurance policies and things like that. Absolutely. Again, all of this. So let me be clear. I'm giving you general information.
Right.
It's all state by state, which is another
Right.
reason why people need to have a consult, with an attorney. But absolutely, I think that people assume, okay, well, mama dead, so we ain't got to worry about the taxes on the house no more because it was in her name. Oh no, absolutely not. If there's an outstanding balance, you owe it. A friend lost his parents. There was a car involved. Like it was a whole to do to try to get a death certificate and then make claim just to get a tag for the car. Like people just assume you have to think about all of those things. But yes, you still are responsible for your debts.
Guys, we just, again, a conversation we don't normally have, things that we are not taught. This is why we're having Coin Talk. This is where it's going to start breaking down these myths versus truth, as well as just really start educating us. Because again, we don't get this in school. We are not getting on a job. And if we keep going to getting our degrees from LegalZoom.com and handing out these attorney degrees and real estate degrees and everything y'all can get off of Google, there's a lot of times we're left with information that's inaccurate, and more important, things that's just not right and it won't hold up in the court of law. So, all right. So my last question as we get ready to end this is myth versus truth. I am married, so my spouse will inherit everything.
That's a myth.
What? Guys, what you mean it's a myth? So my spouse is not gonna get everything just because we legally married?
No. So, again, that's another reason that a will is important. Everybody's spouse is not a good spouse. So that's number one. But also number two, you know, it there are normally, so let me say this. Normally, if you're married, yes, everything will go to your spouse. But that's not always, because there's a line of heirs, right? So it's usually your spouse, your children, and it goes down that way. After you get past children or grandchildren, then you get into parents and siblings and things like that. But again, I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I have a story for everything. I have a person that came in with me, and she has 5 children with one person, but they never have been married. And she recently was diagnosed with cancer. And all of a sudden, after all these years, he hadn't paid child support, he hadn't done all these different things. Now all of a sudden he wants to go through the legal process to become the legal parent of the children. She has a lot of money in the bank, no will, no nothing. So I referred her to my partner. I'm like, you need a will and you need a trust, because you're not doing well. And this person has not been the best parent. And you have these smart children who are slated to go to college and, do all these things. And if he's the legal parent of them, then the money, yes, will go to them, right? Because she's not married to him. But because they're under 18, he's just going to come in as the legal custodian and get the control over the money. So, but if she has a will and we do a trust, her sister that she trusts can be the trustee and ensure that that money goes toward her children's education or for their health or whatever it is. So I guess it's kind of a myth and a truth. I mean, if you're married, then yes, without a will, it goes. But if you have a will, you can lay out what goes to your spouse and what goes elsewhere. And I just want to say one other thing, Brandy, because you were talking about Google and everything. I won't discount that there's a wealth of information out there, and I encourage people to seek, independent information. Don't believe everything because it's on the internet, but seek it out. But one of the issues with that is, even if you go to a LegalZoom and you say, okay, I'm gonna pay $99 and get this will done, a lot of those legal terms you don't understand. And even if you Google the definition, you don't really know what it means for property to be, whatever the terms are.
And a lot of times, even from a real estate standpoint, a lot of times people are not understanding what's going to happen with property that's aired and you haven't paid taxes, go through probate. There's a lot of things that people don't know. And that's why we have to have attorneys to go in and have that conversation on your behalf.
Absolutely.
Okay, so guys, thank you all. I want to thank you, Attorney Johnson, for being here. I thank you so much for dropping these coins, nuggets on behalf of the people here. Is there anybody who's on the line who would like to definitely ask a comment or a question right now? I think in light of everything that we're going through, there's definitely some things that we weren't aware of. I mean, even with preparing for this, there were certain myths and truths that I think I'll be honest, we have obviously a will, we have an estate planning, we have it all because again, I jokingly tell my husband, I tell him, something happened, your new wife won't get all of my money. It's not gonna. And I look at his face and told the attorney, and everybody laughed, but I was very serious. And I say that because I worked hard. I mean, we were a couple and we have kids, but all of heard stories where people remarry, something happens, and then they treat the original kids, and I say original, the ones that were there, they don't like them, so then they do something different for them, and then they try to, swindle them out, and I didn't want that to happen. So we did have that discussion up front, and I definitely wanted to make sure he just knew. It wasn't like, I'm going and I'm bringing about a conversation. He didn't know I'm about to hunt him and find him, when I get up. Like, dude, you tripping. So, no, I want you to know why you're alive, and I'm having a conversation. So, I was just joking, but I wanted him to know, and even the attorney, so he can understand. But he just looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, but again, because it's such a gloom and doom conversation, I have to make it very fun and things like that. But the reality is, I want to be protected. I want my girls protected, and that's what it's about. And then, like you said earlier, you talked about this is not something that is new in other cultures and other communities. This is something that we're behind on. We are not. We may never live and make the type of money that most people make. The Rock just got, what is his net worth now? Something
insane.
Billions, think about it, billions, y'all. And again, we just asked for a little bit of that money. He worth billions, and nobody says anything. But when you go out and try to get your family a wheel or something to help your family, oh girl, what you doing? You think you are that? No, you're just. It's nothing for everybody to go see The Rock. It's nothing for you all to go see your stars. Protect your family. Make sure your family can be able to benefit just like everybody else's family. So thank you all, for tuning in. Tiffany, thank you so much. I'm glad you thoroughly enjoyed this. We hope to be able to, continue to have these type of conversations. And that's what my goal is with this Coins Talk Radio and this Coins Talk show, is to really start bringing about uncomfortable conversations, but making it comfortable, but making it relevant and making it real. Thank you so much, Barbara, for the information. And we have a question from Tamara. She says, do we need everyone's social security number to create a will, and custodians and beneficiaries?
Absolutely not. You don't need anyone's social security number. Generally, what I do when I prepare a will is, well, we don't put social security numbers on anything. I do, if my clients have the information, I like to put the beneficiary. It's not important though, because as long as they know where you have policies or where you have accounts, those institutions, whether it's a bank or the insurance company, they already have the beneficiary form. So that's not of that much importance, because you may change beneficiaries at some point. As long as we have that this is with Navy Federal, or this is with, Trustmark or Regions, then, and I like to do the last 4 digits of the account if I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's sufficient information in itself. You do not have to have any other personal information at all.
Okay, great. She also asks, do I need to have all of my insurance policy information?
Yeah, so again, you do not have to put beneficiaries or anything on there. As long as you say, this is who I have a policy with. And again, my preference, so that there's no confusion, is to put at least the last 4 digits of the account numbers on there. I think it makes it easier. And I want to say one other thing, Brandy. I don't know if this is true in Mississippi, but one thing I encourage my client, well, it's a couple things I encourage my clients to do. So I want to encourage your listeners to do. Number one, in all of the wills that I prepare, I include a clause that says it's called a no contest clause. That means if anybody tries to contest the will, they're absolutely cut out. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to alleviate people saying, oh no, well, she told me this last week. No, if you try to fight, if I want to change my will, I'll contact my lawyer and change my will. Right. Otherwise, what I put in here is what I want in here. And if anybody fights it, they're cut out. That's one thing that we always do. The second thing I like to encourage my clients to do is to get at least 2 originals of the will, and you keep one wherever you want to keep it, safe deposit box or whatever. But at least in Georgia, one option is you can file your will at the probate court, the clerk's office, so that when you pass, especially if you've told somebody, they know, okay, a copy of her will is there at the clerk's office. It's already been filed. and you can just go in and get a copy of it. So if no one can access your safe deposit box or don't know where you've hidden it, it's in a form that's not public for everyone. But if they're presented with a death certificate, it can be obtained.
And of course, let me go ahead and jump in and say that if you get a My Coin journal, if nothing else, a lot of this stuff will be broken down and you can find it there. So, Tamara, one of your other questions is, she's asked a couple, where do I file or keep a will and how are my bank accounts treated? I keep savings and several questions, don't want my money to go to the wrong place. One of the things in the My Coins journal that you will see is that it spells it out and you can keep it wherever you deem necessary. You want to keep it in the will and the safe because it looks just like a book. Most people don't even know it's there. All you have to do is basically tell your family member, hey, if anything happens, basically go look for the coin journal. And it has everything spelled out for you. So you're not having to keep all of that pertinent information just hidden around, because I'll be honest, we have an estate planning book, and guys, if I put it out, it is literally, I don't know if y'all can see this, but it's about this thick. This thick, and literally it's just that big, just full of information, and you don't want that hanging around everywhere, so we have it put up, but that information is super thick and I don't want it to fall in the wrong hands, so we keep it up. I won't put it on our business out there, but it's in a safe, deposit, and of course I know where it is, as well as the people that need to know, they know where to get it and how to access it along with that information in the coins journal. So definitely you can do and put all of that stuff there, and it spells it out because you, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the person who gets that information is one that you trust, one that you know is going to do right, and then they can find all that information. And it isn't, Samara, like you said, in all kind of places. Is it here? Is it there? And it just tells everything. It tells the story to the person reading it, and then they can go and find that information to be able to say, oh, okay, now that I have this. Because I think earlier, one of the things Attorney Johnson said was, you have policies that you have in your account or even trying to get to your account. Well, if we don't know how to get in touch with your supervisor and or your job, again, that's in the journal. We ask, what's their phone number? How do we get in touch with them? Because a lot of you all have renamed your bosses. They a-hole, butthole, get on my nerves hole. You don't really know their name, right? And you definitely don't know their phone number. So how does your family know how to even get that information? And then the second question is, let's think about it. A lot of y'all got stuff in your that phone. How are we gonna get it there? And a lot of that information is there. So you definitely have to still write some things out and then again give it to and let them know where that information is. I've heard that people are putting policies and all kinds of stuff in the bottom of freezers. Why? I don't know. So I don't know why people want to. I mean, it's frozen, but I've never heard it. But again, that's what they want to do. But if the person that it's for doesn't know that it's at the bottom of the refrigerator and then they sell it, what do you think gonna happen? I mean, you all are doing all these and putting things in place, but who benefits if we're not discussing it? COVID has taught a lot of things. COVID has taught us, number one, we're not prepared. And again, we didn't. But number two, we're not having these conversations often enough, and we think we're gonna have time. If you think about the onset of COVID, you can't talk. So how are you going to really have that discussion and tell me to go look there when I can't even talk to you because I can barely breathe? And again, I'm not making this, to be a doom and gloom, but again, just think about it. We plan for everything. We plan to have baby showers. We plan for everybody wants to have vacations when this is over. You all, if I ask you all in the comments to tell me where you all want to go, you all can rattle off everywhere y'all want to go, and y'all can tell me when you want to do it. The only thing I'm asking you for in this particular case is to start planning for something you just don't know the date of.
And let me just let me piggyback off of that too, Brandy.
Sure.
You are absolutely right. And another thing that we encountered in my family when discussing the will was, like my dad, he was like, well, I don't want anybody seeing and getting their feelings. Okay, first of all, I don't care because I feel like whatever you work for, you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Right.
It's not mine. But everybody doesn't feel that way. But, people can be creative. Say, for instance, if you were like, look, I don't want my husband to know that he only getting 25% and the other 75% here. I can understand them not wanting that. You take that coins journal and you leave it at your best friend's house. You take that will and you put in a safe deposit, but you tell your best friend, hey, if something happens to me, my safe deposit is at Regions and the key is on my key ring. Like, you do things like that so that somebody knows how to access it when something happens to you. It doesn't have to be where, okay, they can just walk in the bookcase and see everything and now you're concerned. I get that is an issue for people, but it's not an excuse not to handle your business.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you, Tim. I hope we answered all your questions, and feel free to inbox us, and we'll definitely answer anything else if we may have missed anything. So, guys, thank you all so much for our Coins Talk edition. Again, no matter if you're rich or not, or wealthy or not, everybody needs a wheel. And we have obviously Attorney Johnson here with several stories that I think were very important and very timely, especially because they're real. Again, you all definitely don't want to miss our next one. I'm going to definitely ask her mother to be here, and we're going to have it, live from I don't know, I'm going to name it probably right now, live from the funeral home. What you didn't think you knew that goes down in funeral homes. And we're going to just let her mom come and tell us and educate us on what she's seen and how, again, probably 95 or 99% of it can be avoided. And a lot of it is going to be probably over some money, or just wasn't ready, or not prepared. And again, you may have read about it, but I think the reality is some people just need to hear that this is really real and it's not fictitious. And more importantly, how can we make sure that we don't leave our family members in this position? So, guys, thank you all so much for joining us. If there's anything else you all need, definitely, again, this is my Coins Journal. Our link is below. Get you a copy of the journal. We can definitely make sure that you all can start putting that information in there. But more importantly, having the conversation, because at the end of the day, we're just here to help educate, to be able to, again, you create legacies through conversation. And one of the ways you do that is by writing things down and making it plain. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.